I think it's, one, working with all these different departments, setting up what their KPIs are if they're not already established. In most cases they would be, and then coming up with service level agreements between the departments to making sure that everyone's KPIs and metrics are aligned for the greater good, for the bigger goal, which ultimately is going to lead to revenue for the company.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Swell. I'm your host, Maya Mahoney, the social media manager here at McGraw, and today we are joined again by CEO and founder of McGraw, Chip McGraw. So, Chip, we're happy you're here to join us for another episode.
Well, thanks, Maya.
So on this episode today, we're going to be talking about revenue operations and why it's important to implement into your business. So I guess we'll just jump right into it. So can you explain to those watching what revenue operations is and why it's important?
I mean, basically, revenue operations has to do with all the parts of your business that are producing revenue, which is essentially marketing, sales, and then the support of after sales, and then how you're going to continuously market to people once you have them as clients. So it's all those operations that traditionally, in many cases, have been quite siloed. You know, the silo of marketing, the silo of sales, the silo of customer service. So revenue operations talks about how we tie all those things together, how those different departments, they can't just function as, you know, a silo, as a department among themselves, because marketing's role is to produce leads for the salespeople. The salespeople's role is to close those leads. And then the support or customer service or after sales department is there to continue to delight those customers and to continue to get more revenue out of them. So I think we have to look at a holistic approach across all three of those sectors, making sure that they are working together and they understand, those different departments understand what those other departments do and how that translates across the entire business of generating revenue.
Yeah, and the selling formula has changed throughout the years. So when was the first time you heard the term revenue operations, and is this a new concept?
I think, as a term, revenue operations is a fairly new concept. I think in theory, it's always existed. But I think the idea of tracking back sales and tying it directly into marketing and marketing directly into sales, having service level agreements between departments and making sure that they are working together in unison, like the different parts of an orchestra or the different parts of a band, where if just the flutes played their part without understanding when the string instruments were supposed to play, if you're, vice versa. I mean, these things have to coincide with each other, and the different parts of the organization have to play together in unison for it all to work. And you can't just be like, oh, well, my department did this, and our job is done, and our department did that, and our job is done. I think you have to look at it, across the organization. So, I mean, to answer your question, I think this is something that has existed for a long time. I think smart business people have been doing it for quite some time. I know most CEOs, founders, other C-level executives that are in charge of generating revenue for their business have certainly wanted this to take place. I think the neat thing that we have today is that we have a tool in place, HubSpot, that allows us to not only set up revenue operations or set up all three of these parts of the business under one piece of software. It gives us the ability to track that, create reporting. This is a new tool that's enabling us to track and to better implement revenue operations.
Yeah, and so as a HubSpot Gold Solutions partner, you kind of talk about how HubSpot has revenue operations kind of implemented into that. So are there certain hubs or tools within HubSpot that you could touch on specifically that, have this revenue operations strategy kind of built into it?
So, I mean, the strategy is you have to create the strategy yourself. Obviously, it works for your own organization. We're talking about the KPIs that you put in place, the agreements between departments. What are the main important factors of your business? HubSpot itself as a piece of software is not going to tell you what those metrics should be, right? You as an organization have to create those metrics. But you can create those metrics, put those metrics into the software, back that up with reporting that'll give your C-level or your managers an easy look into the business to make sure that your department is hitting their goals, as well as seeing how you're tracking against the service level agreements you've made with other part departments of the business. I think from a piece of software that helps you manage revenue operations, HubSpot recently released the Operations Hub that kind of helps you tie it all together. But you've got the Marketing Hub, which is marketing automation and lead generation, inbound marketing specifically is what that helps out with most. Then you've got your Sales Hub that helps you manage your sales pipeline, your deal pipeline, and ties in reporting back to, where those leads came from your Marketing Hub, tracking different lead sources, lead costs, and conversion rates and metrics. Then you've got your Service Hub that helps you track what's going on in your service department, customer service or after sales, and how that relates both to your marketing and your Sales Hub, giving you that ability and insight to automate a lot of that retargeting, follow-up, and ongoing sales efforts that are part of the after sales and service departments. Then the Operation Hub helps you tie all that in, and it's really where you can really manage all of your revenue operations.
So according to Gartner Incorporated, by 2025, 75% of the highest growth companies in the world will deploy RevOps model. So we kind of already talked about how HubSpot is a tool that, helps that with revenue operations, but can you outline some of the people or processes that are needed to successfully implement RevOps into your organization?
Well, a lot of people are now choosing to hire what's called a chief revenue officer. And that could be, it's kind of across, many of these C-level jobs have begun to cross over. And that's why we also have something called a CXO today. So, chief revenue officer, CXO, all your C-level people and department heads and managers are going to have to play a role in revenue operations. They already do it today. It's just about tying them all together and having the different departments be accountable across the departments as opposed to being so siloed. So, many people in today's environment are hiring people like chief revenue officers to help to run the revenue operations. Could even be a CMO, a chief marketing officer, along with a director of sales, chief operations officers as well play a role in this. So I think it's, one, working with all these different departments, setting up what their KPIs are if they're not already established. In most cases they would be, and then coming up with service level agreements between the departments to making sure that everyone's KPIs and metrics are aligned for the greater good, for the bigger goal, which ultimately is going to lead to revenue for the company, right? As opposed to, marketing just did our job, we generate our leads, sales, it's up to you to close them. Well, what about the quality of the leads? Okay, and are we meeting the conversion rates? And if we're not meeting the conversion rates of sales, is it because our salespeople need some additional training? Or is it because the types of leads that we are generating are not the right lead, or they're not good quality, or there's something there, something off, or is it a combination of the two, and do we need retraining and things need to happen in both of those parts of the business? Maybe it's, okay, we've got this great lead generation tool going on, we're generating lots of leads, we're getting our sales metrics, we're meeting our sales, but then ongoing, our recurring revenue is broken because perhaps the people in our service department or after sales department need retraining, or maybe when we make the sale, we're not setting it up appropriately to be managed with that after sales department or service department. So it's basically, to answer your question, some people would use a chief revenue officer to basically oversee all these processes. In other businesses, it might be a chief operating officer. It really depends on the business itself.
Okay. And so what do you think that are some of the biggest challenges that companies are facing when it comes to implementing revenue operations into their business? I know you said a way that they can combat that is by, hiring different people, but what are some other ways or advice you would give to these companies struggling?
Well, anytime you bring in either new technology or new processes to a business, you're always going to have pushback because no one likes change, right? And inevitably, there might be some additional work that has to be done by team members, and everyone loves to just go to work and get their work done and be the same every day, and it's just Groundhog Day, and we all make a lot of money and go home, and have a good time on the weekend. However, when you're implementing new strategies and new systems in your business, you need to have the appropriate people leading that implementation, as well as assisting in that implementation. And one of the benefits of what we provide from McGraw is we can be that third party, that outsourced arm that not only helps you to implement this across your business, but do a lot of the labor that might be there and take that off the plate of those people that really it's a roadblock. So if you can take away that roadblock from getting this implemented by using a third party like ourselves as a HubSpot solutions partner, we'll come in and help to implement this process across your business, removing some of that those roadblocks, removing the pushback from some of your team members, and just making a smooth transition. So I think that is always going to be the hardest part of implementing any new software or process into a business, is just having the right implementer to really take it on and lead the charge. And if you have someone in your own business that can do that, great. If you don't, that's what we're here for. That's what we provide.
And obviously a strategy is only as good as its execution. So, and I probably already know the answer to this, but do you think that there is a future with revenue operations?
Oh, I think it is the future. There is no other way. If you want to succeed in today's market, with the cost of media being so expensive, with everything moving to digital, very little traditional marketing functioning in today's society, you have to have the right systems in place to make sure that you're squeezing every dollar out of your marketing, that you're increasing conversions every year, year over year. Whether you're a private company or a publicly traded company, everybody's looking for growth. And you have to have a good system in place to measure your sales, your marketing, and your service departments. And it needs to be in a clear, easy place where data is accurate and easily available to those who are the decision makers and the stakeholders, so they can help make the right decisions for the business.
And I think that's about all the questions I had today. Is there anything else you want to touch on in regards to revenue operations?
Yeah, I just think it's the wave of the future. It's the only way that you're going to be able to have a strategic advantage in such a competitive market as we have today. Almost every sector of the economy is extremely competitive. And, in order to be successful, you got to have a leg up in your competition. And basically having your business run smoothly, inside and out, using revenue operations is a great way to have a strategic advantage and a leg up over the competition.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your insight today on revenue operations and for joining us on another episode. So be on the lookout for new episodes of The Swell coming very soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.